أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي واجعل لي وزيرا من أهلي هارون أخي اشتد به أزري وأشركه في أمري كي نسبحك كثيرا ونذكرك كثيرا إنك كنت بنا بصيرا ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما آمين آمين والحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. Okay, so inshallah we'll continue our conversation on the miraculousness of Quran from the 25th word. And let's continue with the fifth quality of eloquence. So, okay, I'll try to read it slowly once and then we'll come back to the beginning for a discussion. The Quran sometimes mentions material, particular matters which are subject to change and are the means of various circumstances. Then, in order to transform them into the form of constant truths, summarizes them with constant, luminous, universal divine names and ties them up. Or it concludes with a summary which encourages thought and the taking of lessons. So mentioning some specific particular matters, practical things that are happening, the change. But then in order to turn it into a universal lesson, summarize it with divine names. And in some other cases, this is one part that the author is going to talk about. The second part is it concludes with a summary which encourages thought and the taking of lessons. An example of the first meaning. And he taught Adam the names, all of them. It's from Surah Baqarah, verses 31 to 2. Let me first read the Arabic. وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا ثُمَّ عَرَضَهُمْ عَلَى الْمَلَائِكَةِ فَقَالَ أَنْبِئُونِي بِأَسْمَاءِ هَؤُلَاءِ إِنْ كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ قالوا سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. And he taught Adam the names, all of them, then placed them before the angels. And said, tell me the names of these if you are right. They said, glory be unto you. We have no knowledge save that which you have taught us. Indeed, you are all-knowing, all-wise. First of all, this verse mentions a particular matter, which is, in the question of Adam's vicegerency, it was his knowledge that gave him superiority over the angels. Then within this event, this particular event, it mentions that of the angels' defeat before Adam in respect of knowledge. Then it summarizes these two events with two universal names. Indeed, you are all-knowing, all-wise. That is, since you are all-knowing and wise, you instructed Adam and he prevailed over us. And since you are all-wise, you treated us according to our abilities and gave him preference in accordance with his abilities. This was for the example of the first type, talking about a certain specific case and then summarizing with divine names. An example of the second meaning, which was concluding with a summary, which encourages thought and the taking of lessons. وَإِنَّ لَكُمْ فِي الْأَنْعَامِ لَعِبْرَةً نسقيكم مما في بطونه من بين فرث ودم لبنا خالصا سائغا للشاربين. And verily in cattle, you will find an instructive sign from what is within their bodies, between excretions and blood. We produce for your drink milk, pure and agreeable for those who drink it. So this is the beginning until فيه شفاء للناس إن في ذلك الآية لقوم يتفكرون. Therein is healing for men. Indeed, in this is a sign for a people who thinks. So I'm going to pull up these verses. So it's from 66. وإن لكم في الأنعام لعبرة نسقيكم مما في بطونه من بين فرث ودم لبنا خالصا سائغا للشاربين. And there is a lesson for you in cattle. We give you a drink from their bellies, from between waste and blood, pure milk refreshing to the drinkers. ومن ثمرات النخيل والأعناب تتخذون منه سكرا ورزقا حسنا إن في ذلك لآية لقوم يعقلون. And from the fruits of date palms and grape wines, you derive sugar and wholesome food. In this is a sign for people who understand. وأوحى ربك إلى النحل أن اتخذي من الجبال بيوتا ومن الشجر ومما يعرشون. And your Lord inspired the bee, set up hives in the mountains and in the trees, and in what they construct. ثم كلي من كل الثمرات فاسلكي سبل ربك ظللا. Then eat of all the fruits and go along the pathways of your Lord with precision. يخرج من بطونها شراب مختلف ألوانه فيه شفاء للناس. From their bellies emerges a fluid of diverse colors, containing healing for the people. إن في ذلك الآية لقوم يتفكرون. Surely in this is a sign for the people who reflect. So the example started from 66 up to 69. These verses point out that Almighty God makes creatures of His, like sheep, goats, cattle, and camels, into springs of pure, delicious milk for men, and artifacts like grapes and dates into cauldrons and trays laden with deliciously sweet bounties for him, and tiny miracles of his power like the honeybee into makers of a sweet, health-giving sherbet. I don't know if this is understandable, but health-giving, what's it? Can you come up with an English word for that? Turkish English people. No one.
What is the Turkish version?
Sherbet.
Sweet
That's
drink.
an English word, I think.
Is it an English word also? Okay.
Yeah, it is.
Or maybe syrup, we can say.
Okay, syrup. Syrup. Yeah. Okay. His power like the honeybee into makers of a sweet, health-giving syrup, and then conclude with the words, indeed, in these are signs for a people who thinks, thus urging men to think and take lessons and compare these with other things. So here were two cases, and he gave two examples for both types. Now let me hear your comments about both. Let's start with the first one, talking about a specific thing, like some sort of a event that happened or claimed to be happened at some point of time. The conversation between the creator and the angels, which involves Adam, the first man. And then this conversation is being narrated. And at the end, from that specific case or argument, if you like, all-knowing, all-wise is being mentioned as the divine names. What do you think about this verse? I guess the questions we can think about are, it looks like I'm supposed to get the lesson of the Creator is all-knowing and all-wise if I were to observe this scene. I guess one question can be, if I were to truly observe this scene, would I come to that conclusion? Another question can be, do I observe this scene, or is it just a story that happened at some point? Why does Quran tell me such specific stories which are supposedly happened? How can I take such verses? So these are some questions that I would like to pose to open up the stage for discussion. Brother Bikram, please go ahead.
Jazakallah khairan. So this is more of a question to open up the discussion. So at the very beginning, he says the Quran sometimes mentions these material particular matters, which are subject to change and are the means of various circumstances. Then in order to transform them into the form of constant truths. So the way I understand is that as if it was simply talking about the particular matters which are changing and bounded by the circumstances. So what is wrong with this? Why this is something needs to be transformed into universal constant truths? So in your email, for instance, you were juxtaposing these universality and particularity. So what is missing when something is particular? Why, when I read something in Quran and I read something about Adam, for instance, Prophet Adam, alayhi salam, what is wrong with this if I take it as just a particular event? I can take some lessons from, for instance, from these particular events. And this is the kind of default mode of reading Quran. Like you read it as particular events and then take lessons, just like we take lessons from movies or books. Every book is talking about a particular event, right, or movie. But we are able to take some lessons. So what is wrong with this? Why there's an emphasis there that these particular events needs to be transformed to constant truths?
Yes, we were hoping to get answers and now there are more questions. So I am hoping that this is going to make people more eager to chime in. Yes, Sister Aishana, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. Just one thought, I guess. Reading this verse makes me think about how, I can look at the world around me and I can call a tree, and I can call the sun a sun and the moon a moon, right? And I give it a name, and the moment I give it a name, I feel that I've conquered that. I've gained knowledge of it. That's what it is. But I feel that this verse is telling me that I mean, beyond, I guess, the obvious point of me having no knowledge, that there are names there for me if I open myself up to it, if I come with a certain sense of, perhaps if you'd like to call it, humility of not knowing, rather than coming with the approach of I already know. And so in this sense, I am in the position of the angels as well as Adam, but also in the position of the angels. And if it's asked to me to tell the names, I have to have the consciousness to be able to say, I don't know. And that in the I don't know, I can then come to know something. So I don't know if that made sense, but I've just been thinking a bit lately about my interaction with the world, with my environment, and how the intention with which I approach things completely can transform what I receive from that environment or surrounding. What I receive from the tree if I approach it with the idea that I don't know what this thing is. I don't know what this is, and I don't know what the relationship I have with it is, but I am open to trying to learn it. So, I mean, whatever if that made sense.
Jazakallah khair. So what I understand is there's this emphasis of angels acknowledging that they don't know anything, or they don't own knowledge in a sense, because they declare that they are insufficient on the basis that it was all yours and you gave us that much. So you would know, you already know what you gave us, and you already know what you gave to Adam. So, and it is within your wisdom that you consider Adam to be superior to us. What I see here and what I understand from what you're saying is not owning the knowledge and saying that this is from you, oh my creator, is an important thing, because I guess knowledge is a thing which is easier to own than wealth. Like I can say, yeah, my wealth, it's, I mean, God gave it to me. Let's say if I am speaking about a more obvious way of it, I'm a farmer. The thing that I am earning money from is coming out of the earth. So it's clear to me that my wealth is being given to me. Source of my wealth is being given to me. I am simply, yeah, I put some effort in there, but yeah, out of nowhere, those plants or fruits are being created, being given to me, and then I give it to, I sell it and make money. So maybe I would not own that. But when it comes to knowledge, am I going to be able to say that I don't own them? Or am I going to say, well, I came up with this idea. I found this. I invented this, sort of, or I understood that before anyone. So in here, angels are first declaring that you don't own it, because as if the creator is sort of challenging them, saying that if you are right, then tell me the names of these. As if you are the owners of knowledge, or if you are thinking that rightfully you are better, superior than this servant of mine who acknowledges that he is given or he is taught, then you should be able to know these too, since you are the source of your own knowledge. Okay, come up with the names of these stuff. This is where angels realize their limitedness, or at least within the story. And then they declare, oh, you are the knowledgeable one. And you are, in a sense, by summarizing it with those names, saying that also you are the source of names, and source of knowledge is also you. Everything turns back to you. So I don't know if I made any sense, but these are some of the things that are taught to me as I was listening to Sister Ayşenur's comments. Any other comments? Because this is also metaphorically a very interesting, I don't know if the word metaphor is right to use in here, but names are being asked. Tell me the names of these. and then being concluded, the whole deal is being concluded with divine names, as if the creator is pointing to the names of, I don't know, things there, around there. Like, what is this tree? What is that cloud? And then the whole thing is being concluded by or all-knowing, all-wise, with divine names. So any parallelism in there. And by the way, still we didn't address Brother Birkan's question, where he was saying that in every story, we get some lessons. What is the point of Quran's approach of using or summarizing it with divine names? What is special about that? If I got him correct. Brother Birkan?
I think you made the question you posed the question in a better form. So I guess we should distinguish two things. One is reading ayah or any text so that we can extract some general lessons out of it, versus transforming a particular event, a particular text that we read, into a universal truth through making connections with the divine names. So I think the second one, which is what we read in the text, is more than what is suggested in the first one, which is I'm reading the event and I respect its particularity. I assume and acknowledge its particularity. I say that, yeah, this is event. This is a particular event. It is bounded in time, in its circumstances, but I can extract some generic notions out of it. What is mentioned in text, I think it's more than this. So what is it that, make it more than this? That's the question.
Okay, Brother Birkan, if you would like to help us with some answers also, I guess we will appreciate, because it looks like there are not much people raising hands today.
I mean, I can try. I can try to elaborate further.
Please go ahead.
We listen all these scholars with their great knowledge, and I really respect most of them. And I see that they usually, and we usually, take these particular events as particular events. Meaning, when reading such a verse about Prophet Adam, we will read all these detailed analysis of this historical background, what happened and then what happened, why angels ask such a question, what type of angels were there, or what, the angels look like, how Adam looked like, and so on, all these details, to make it more like a movie. I was, for instance, listening today in Jum'ah Khutbah about the signs of last day, judgment day, the Qiyamah, the signs of indications of the Qiyamah. And the way guy was talking, the Imam was talking, I felt as if, I'm watching a movie. And I enjoyed it, to be honest. Like, I even, while listening to him, making some detailed, the scenes in my mind, writing a scenario as if, I will convert it to a book or a movie. And it was so enjoyable.
I think Christian Bale was somewhere in your movie, I assume.
Oh, of course. Yeah, sure. But he was not wearing a mask. So anyway, And similar things, when we read these ayahs, we say, oh yeah, Prophet Adam was, in this condition, was talking about this, the angel saw him, or angel saw how he was made of, and so on and so forth, all these details. But since it's a story, and we human beings love stories, and we can extract some, generic notions out of these stories, this is what we would do. But here in this text, I guess the author is saying that every particular event that is mentioned in Quran, and I will extrapolate with your permission, every particular event that you witness is an example. It's a manifestation. It's an observable instance of a universal divine name. This is how you know the universal divine names. You see their instances. So for instance, you know friendship through the feelings you have against your friend. Through the friendship you have with Aziz, you know that the friendship is something lovely. You do not experience something as, friendship, this universal concept, but you experience its instance, a particular instance. But in fact, this particular instance tells you something about this universal constant truth. So from these particular events, what you should do, you should try to see how these particular events, these instances, these examples correspond or tell you about something constant, something not changing. Despite this experience you have, this particular event, particular story that you are reading, will have elements which are constantly changing. There is something behind them which is not changing. Their source, whatever you are experiencing there, friendship, knowledge, the compassion, anger, the power, whatever you are experiencing there is a source behind it which is universal. And this example is there to tell you about this constant source. And what you should do, you should follow this particular event so that reach its source. So for instance, when you read this ayah about Adam is knowing something, angels are not knowing something, you should think about the name of the all-knowing. You should know about the name all-knowing. How the all-knowing manifests itself through the knowledge of this particular person. And also through the lack of knowledge of these particular creatures, the angels. So again, the event itself, by itself, it's not the important part. The important part, the message or the universal source behind it. So you have to observe, you have to experience this constant truth through these examples, but do not get lost in these examples, author says. Your job is to reach this universal truth behind it. And this is exemplified in Quran in the best way. Talking about these events, what happened, and then tying them to the universal names, these divine names that you should be reaching. So these are the conclusions, what we have at the end. The all-knowing, all-wise, this is the conclusion that you should be reaching from this story. This story is not by itself is the subject matter. So that don't get lost in it. The subject matter is the conclusion, what you should be reaching to. So I guess this fact that we have to observe and experience things through these particular examples and acknowledging this is what makes this understanding is different. Otherwise, you would say that, you know, yeah, we are humans. We live in this way. We are changing, and that's all. That's the whole truth. And we should get some lessons from others' lives. And you would be lost in these other lives, these examples. I hope I didn't complicate things, but you know, I'm thinking aloud. So I apologize for that.
Jazakallah khair. We'll see how much you complicated. So I'm going to give the mic to Brother Mohammed Said, but before that, I just want to squeeze in some thoughts. So as if in here, the Creator is teaching me how to read the universe, as you were saying that the events that I live in this life are also particulars. But by giving this example in between Adam and angels, saying that this is what has happened, but don't get lost in what has happened. This happened because this scene of the movie means He is the one that's all-knowing, and He is the one that's all-wise. So as if, in general, maybe in movies, I don't know to what extent this happens. Sometimes it happens, like if the scene was so interesting and catching, and then you get attached to, wow, look at this special effect and this and that. But maybe you're going to get lost what the message with that scene was. And then eventually at some point, maybe as a conversation in between two people at the later stages of the movie, or maybe by the main actor breaking the, stage and speaking directly to the audience, explains what was meant by that. As if in here, Quran is saying that this is the story, but this is what you're supposed to get out of it. So teaching me how to read Quran, and now taking Brother Birkan's extrapolation to real life, teaching me how to read life, saying that you are living the life as if my purpose is to get across the troubles and try to find a tranquil life. Like there are some obstacles and you feel like if you defeat it, and if you find a, let's say, retire early and get a house in Florida and just sit watching the sunset. This is not the point of this life. The point of this life is to arrive to conclusions such as, like, that struggle that you were trying to go over, like defeat. It was to get to know all-knowing, all-wise, all-merciful, and whatnot. This is how you would read real life. Brother Muhammad said, sorry to make you wait. Please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, no problem. Thank you very much for all the comments. I just wanted to try to share my feelings that I usually experience with these kind of discussions in regarding the let's say the purpose of the Quran, the teaching of the Quran. What is my feeling is that I have a certain way of relating myself or interacting with the universe, with the things. And Quran, as I said, like usually I get this feeling Quran takes the reader to a point that is not, for me, that is not available, that is kind of, I am alien to that perspective. I am alien to that kind of relationship with the things, with the universe. I am very much used to a certain way of acknowledging the things, like in this particular example, the knowledge. I can appreciate it, as it was said. I can appreciate it, I can recognize it. And it feels that it is something, a virtue, like recognizing the knowledge is a virtue versus not recognizing it, not or ignoring it. But the Quran is not stopping there. Recognizing the knowledge is not the point of the Quran, and that's the point. Actually, I feel surprised usually that Quran takes the reader to recognize the source of the knowledge, which is, for some reason, I am not really used to that kind of approach to any kind of quality. That's kind of the first point. The second thing that came to my mind related to this point is that there's a certain way of, especially when it comes to the, let's say, do's and don'ts. Usually do's and don'ts are presented or acknowledged in a way that it is as if like doing them itself is the virtue, or not doing them, whatever they are, is the virtue itself. I think it is the principle here that we are reading is the same principle is applicable to do's and don'ts in the Quran or in the scriptures, that the purpose is, the virtue is not those actions. The purpose is to acknowledge, or let's say, follow the purpose of the Quran, to acknowledge who is the owner or who is the king of the universe. It's the virtue itself. The virtue is not, or I should not stop just doing things and that's it. I should acknowledge the purpose of the Quran, that which is not really available to me by any other means. Yeah, I hope I am not complicating it. Thank you very much.
Jazakallah khair, Brother Said. Yes, seeing the purpose in it, like not just getting lost in the scene, might also apply to do's and don'ts, as you said. So I am invited to do this, like let it be prayer, let it be fasting and whatnot, because it's also summarizing a divine name, or it is supposed to signify a divine name in my life. It is to carry a divine name into my life. So that needs to be part of the equation. And this verse, or this in the fifth quality of eloquence, what's being mentioned also applies to that. Jazakallah khair, beautiful point. Okay. So this is one type. And any comments that you would like to do, I mean, other than the style itself, anything that you would like to talk about the verses themselves? Because in general, about the 25th word, the author says the verses that he studies in this chapter, in this 25th word, is generally the verses that are criticized by either the unbelievers or the hypocrites. He says, although I did not explain what they are concerned about, in order not to give doubts to people, but I provided response to them, and in fact showing that what people like unbelievers considered as a weakness in Quran is actually a source of miracle. So I'm imagining, for example, for this story here, somebody might say that, well, I mean, this is a story, man, come on, like, you never know if such a thing has happened or did not happen. What's the point of mentioning such a thing? Like, such a specific thing happened at some point of time. I mean, why would you even mention this? Like, do I care about it? I mean, this sort of a thing, like saying then that Quran is simply a combination of ancient stories. What's the point of saying such a story which is not accessible to me and probably not accessible to anyone? Like seeing angels, come on, sort of a thing. Might be the argument. Author does not mention it, such a thing. But in here, actually, he's making a point about this, saying that Quran talking about these is a miraculous, because talking about specifics, when specifics are in everybody's lives, and this is exemplifying how from specifics you come up with universal truth, and universal truths being divine names. And even maybe more interesting one is, then we can go to the specifics of this story and even see that this story is also being generalized, like Adam representing mankind and angels representing other creation, which is limited and is not learning in a sense, but they display divine names to a certain extent. But as for human, the capacity to represent or display more names is given as an option. And then through this, human is superior or is considered to be superior. And I can ask this question, is man superior than the rest of the creation? This verse is saying that yes, human is superior than the rest of the creation. But the point of superiority is not because they are at the end of the evolutionary tree or anything of this sort, but it is because they represent more divine names. I taught them more of divine names. And the superiority is in that respect. So telling me, speaking to me, saying that to the extent that you understand that you are being taught and you are given the capacity to get to know your creator more, this is where you're going to be distinct. So don't try to be like animals. Don't try to be like a stone. Don't try to live the moment. Your superiority lies in the fact that the knowledge that is given to you, and the knowledge here being the names. And the names are not simply the names of stuff around you, but these are divine names. Brother Bikram, please go ahead.
Maybe we can say human beings manifest, exemplify, show, or represent. I'm listing every word which are synonym to each other. Represent the source of knowledge, the all-knowing one, all-wise one, in a superior way, in a superior form. It's not that human beings are superior. It is the human beings represent or show, exemplify the all-knowing one better than the others. But still, this comes with kind of responsibility, right? That you need to keep your mirror as bright as possible. You should be aware that you are chosen words of the speaking creator. And do not soil the words that you articulate with your existence, with your presence. Also, may I say something else about this?
Please.
Yeah, the text. So when we take this serious and when we take this as a method that we study and we learn, this shape our life in a miraculous way. So we're talking about the miraculousness of Quran, and this understanding of Quran, or this teaching of Quran, because through these ayahs, Quran is, as you said, teaching us how to live our lives. And if we follow the Quranic methodology in our lives as well, our lives becomes miraculous. So one example, I probably gave this example before, but so I apologize for repetition. I was watching a very powerful stream of water in Niagara. It's so powerful, like the numbers are amazing. That million liter of water per second and so on. And in one branch of this, the stream, not the main Niagara Falls, but something very near to it, swimming a bird just inside the water, not even, holding anything, just standing there as if it's nothing. And then seeking for food, from moment to moment, diving into water, getting something and getting out the water. If you put me in this spot, I would definitely drown. The water would take me away, even if I try to hold the stones and so on. But for this bird, a small bird, it was nothing. Like, it is like, comparing someone who cannot run with these Olympic medal runners. And when I look at this event, this particular event, the particular bird, so the usual way I live my life is that I look at this bird and I say, wow, that's crazy, man. This is so good. This is so cool. Look at the talents it has. And if I'm, intellectual, educated, I throw some stories there, the scientific stories. Or if I'm an artist, I, throw a few dramatic words, put some colors in it, and then it fades out after a second or after a minute, if I'm lucky. And I don't get anything from that. So I can get some lessons. I can say, if I try hard, I can also achieve something similar. Or, I can say, oh, the food is there for even the weakest creature. So I can take some lessons. But Quran teaches me that when you look at this bird, think about the sustainer, who doesn't have any limitation. The powerful stream is nothing, it's his creation. He controls it. If he wants the stream taking the bird out of its way, it would, but if he does not, the bird will stay there. It's his choice, his will. He is the sustainer. He decides who to feed, who not to feed. And this is your sustainer as well. So your sustainer doesn't have any limits. Once he wants to sustain you, nothing can stand in front of you. This is your sustainer. So from this particular event, I should have reached to this conclusion that it's not bird is getting its food. It's not water, making it difficult. It's not the food staying somewhere easily pickable. It is sustainer. That's the whole story. This is the action of the sustainer. And once you reach this understanding, all these, made up limitations, all these made up rules about the sustenance, you have to work hard, you have to cheat, you have to spend all your time, you should forget about your family, you have to read, you have to study, you have to, have sleepless nights. It's your achievement. All these made up, the stories, the rules, they just fades out, disappear. It's you and your sustainer. So your life becomes miraculous because every event in your life is just the speech of your creator and nothing more. So this is, I think, very valuable lesson that we should be taking very serious, starting from myself. Inshallah, one day.
Inshallah, one day. Jazakallah khair. Brother Aziz, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you everyone for your comments. So reading the ayah, the part of we have no knowledge, when Malaika said we have no knowledge, Yusuf, I was about to pretend that I speak good English when I was reading off the page, and then you got out of the page. Where can you please get back to that page? Okay, let's pretend that I know this from just that I just know this by heart. When the ayah goes, we have no knowledge save that which you have taught us, indeed you are all knowing or wise. I kind of thought about myself that I really don't practice this at all, at all. It seems to me that like certain knowledge that like certain aspect of knowledge that I'm given, that it's easy for me to kind of link that knowledge to my creator, like my ability to see, my ability to go to sleep and wake up healthy, and these kind of things, or my knowledge of walking, if you want to call it that. That's easy. But when it comes to my, like whatever we call knowledge, like my intellectual stuff, I'm pretty obsessed with myself. Like I don't want to be studying something that I find challenging to understand or to memorize, and then I'm even like remotely linking that to my creator. And when I let's say I'm Ankiing cards or whatever, like I'm using some software or some QBank to improve myself in something, and then I see a little bit of improvement, I kind of link that improvement directly to that question bank or to that whatever method of learning I was using. I'm not gonna maybe in a good night I might say Alhamdulillah, and that's about it very quickly. But al-Malaika seem to not have that problem at all. Like when they were asked the question, they were clearly linking any knowledge, whatever knowledge they have to their creator. Subhanallah. Anyways, just thoughts. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam, jazakallah khair. Yes, this problem seems to be prevalent, not only in Aziz. I mean, owning knowledge is a key thing. It looks like Adam, who is being presented as like at opposite sides of the equation with Satan, if you like. Satan being the one that's denying what was given to it, and Adam declaring that everything was given to him. So being an abd in this case, declaring that I am given everything, including knowledge, is an important point for human to recognize. And I'm personally seeing that this is as a very important thing as well as a challenging thing, not to own knowledge, because it is as if it comes very intuitively, and I take it so much for granted that I came up with the idea, or it's very much mine. Everything is happening internally, in a sense, if you like. So it is hard to acknowledge this part of it. And once I taint this as it's mine, knowledge being mine, then I start claiming ownership over everything quite easily. Maybe this is where, another thing that I may take from this verse is go back to the very roots of the problem. Where I start, where did I get the bad habit of claiming ownership over things? It is that I don't consider it as I am being taught, but I am claiming to know. It is mine. Maybe this is where the problem started in the first place. And this is where the distinction between Adam and the Satan happened. And observers, angels, were also having some issues with that, but they realized their issue quickly. And as the story declares. But also there's an aspect, how do I know about that? There are angels, which nobody wanted to get into that discussion. But if you would like to, please go ahead. And while I'll be waiting for people's hands to make comments, I'm going to also take you to the second verse, second chunk of verses, in which this time the particulars are being put in front of my eyes. But then, rather than Quran summarizing what they point to, Quran invites me to think and saying that the things that you observe, which were here, like lesson for you in cattle, then fruits and date palms and grape wines, from that you derive sugar and wholesome food. So this is a sign for people who understand, for instance, or your Lord inspired the bee. And what sort of an inspiration is it? Set up hives in mountains and in the trees and in what they construct, then eat all of the fruits and go along the pathways of your Lord with precision. And then from their bellies emerges a fluid of diverse colors. Surely this is a sign for people who reflect. So as if the Creator is saying that I didn't put these in there just for fun, or the point was it's carrying a message to you to reflect on, to understand what's going on, to think about. So yet, who understand is an interesting translation here. Those who intellectually put effort to understand it. So these are, in here, Quran is inviting us to say that these are not simply things to just put out there, thrown out there by chance, or even if you are to declare that the Creator makes all these, you need to ask the question, why did the Creator put these to here? As if these words are inviting us to say that, okay, I mean, actually it's also good, isn't it? Like in a textbook, content is being presented, then within the explanation part, examples are being provided. And there are also some exercises saying that here is another pattern, another particular, and then saying that what is your opinion? That is the message behind that. Think about it. So in a sense, pointing to the fact that these are not for the sake of themselves. The Quran is not simply telling me, oh, here is the milk. Oh yeah, in the kitchen you can find milk in the fridge. But the point is, why did I put it in there? Is the point that Quran wants me to think about. Any comments about the second part or the first part? Brother Adam, please go ahead. I saw Brother Adam's hand, but then it was not there anymore. Okay, maybe it was a mistake. Okay, so let me go back to the verses again. Yeah. I'm just reading the verses and also give you a few minutes to think about the verses. Inshallah, I'm closing my mic. Abdurrahman raised hand. Please go ahead, Abdurrahman.
I just have two very short comments, I guess. So for the first verses for Prophet Adam, I just kind of something that struck me is the angels were being asked to name something. So if you go to the verses, it's tell me the names of these if you are right. So God is asking the angels, and this is a test that the angels cannot pass. They can't tell them the names, yet God is the creator is asking them to questioning them, and they can't give the right answer. So it seems kind of rigged, like they're doomed to fail, and they can't give the answer. And that almost kind of sees the point too, because they realize they can't give the answer, then they come to the realization of these names, like, oh, we have no knowledge except that which you give to us. So it's kind of like it reminds me of let's say in our day-to-day lives, we might face things which make no sense or you can't really wrap your head around, it's like, what kind of test is this, or what's the purpose of this? And maybe the purpose is not to get that answer right, give the name for that specific scenario, but to come to the conclusion that the angels are coming to, which is there is no knowledge save that which you have taught us, and you are all knowing, all wise. So I found that interesting. And for the next verses, just I guess another small comment I had was I kind of like, instead of like telling me, oh, you have to think, there is signs for those who understand, or signs for those who think, I'm just like, I'm kind of thinking, why is it vague? Why are you being vague? Just like, tell me, just this is maybe blunt and not appropriate language, but like, spit it out, kind of like, just like, tell me what I need to know, kind of, don't keep it vague. But as I read these verses, it talks about all these examples, like, kind of, it's like, reflect on this, like the cattle, the mountains, the trees. And then, I don't really, in my day-to-day life, maybe I don't really think about why does a mountain exist or why does a tree exist, but I think about maybe, why do I exist, very frequently, or I think about why do these experiences I have in my life exist very frequently. I always think about these, and maybe I just the thing, I just like end up with the thought of, oh, they just happen, or you can't deal with it, it's bad luck, or it is what it is, kind of, that's how you move on. But then when I read these verses, it's like these things in your life, surely there's a sign in them, right? If there's a sign in a tree and in a mountain, then there must also be a sign in the fact that I live in a world, I've been given life in a world where millions of trees exist, or hundreds of thousands or thousands of mountains exist. It makes me ponder that fact. So like I can see how when I read these verses, it then brings me kind of to the more universal idea of then reflecting on the other questions that I have, which are like, is there really a purpose in me existing? Like, is there really this deep meaning in it really? Or am I just kidding myself? So it pushes me to actually like reflect on it, because and just like a final note, when I do look at a tree, like maybe you don't think about it daily, but when you look at a tree and you contemplate, or like a cattle, and you contemplate, the intricacies of the milk that's being produced, you can see, you can say like subhanallah, you can say, wow, there's a truly tremendous engineering that's going on here. And that you think, oh, there must be a purpose. Like when you study that, even if like you're not conscious of that frequently, and when you can see the purpose in that, then it can make you push you to, it can be like a catalyst, or like it can push you to kind of be like, then there must be a purpose for me existing, because I'm also this extremely delicate, like extremely like intricate creation as well. And not just like an extremely intricate creation, but like I'm able to experience everything around me as well. So I can experience all these cattle and all these trees. So like there must be a purpose that's like even 100 times as great, potentially. So it just made me it reminded me of those. Thank you.
And for the point that you were mentioning for why are you being vague? So I think this is, in a sense, by providing both, inviting me to saying that this is a book for guidance. It's not a book for not like an answer sheet that we're going to take and memorize, but rather it's going to teach you how to read. And the Quran is reading the universe, reading the life, and also teaching me how to read. So in this sense, I mean, it's very beautiful how those teachings are getting intertwined. Because in one sense, there is a creator teaching me, as it is in this verse, creator being the teacher who has the knowledge and who teaches me the knowledge. And this happening through the creation with the, if you remember the first revelation, so اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم. So now read in the name of your Lord, who provides. الذي علم بالقلم, he is the one who teaches with the pen, and then teaches man that which he doesn't know, the man doesn't know. So it's very beautiful that the pen being, if you like, every particle being tip of another pen of the creator, with the creation he is teaching you. And then also Quran being my teacher in how to read this existence. It's very beautifully like one inside the other, teaching is being manifest. Brother Bikram, please go ahead.
So this is indeed a really important point, that the Quran is teaching me how to read my life. And the question Abdurrahman raised, it's so central, so crucial, that why you are talking about these examples, why you are not telling me the conclusion. This is not only a pedagogy, what is the word? Pedagogy.
Pedagogy, yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to put it in another form, but anyway, it's not just a method of better teaching you. It's not that, putting some gap or giving some part, letting some part stay vague so that you can, investigate and try to understand yourself, you will better learn. There might be such aspect of it as well. I'm not denying it. But there is something more fundamental there. Human beings, we humans, do not know something that we do not experience. When somebody tell you something, tell you that, oh, there is such a galaxy over there, somewhere a few light years away, and somehow proves it to you, you don't know about this galaxy. What Quran does instead, takes you and puts you inside this galaxy so that you can see with your own eyes, you can touch with your own fingers. This is how we know about things, by living them. And hence, our life is a classroom, is an education, is a training, not in a metaphorical sense, in the literal sense, because this is how we learn. This is how we know. We live and know. You fear, you know what it means to surrender. You fear and you know what it means to seek refuge. You enjoy something and you know what it means to be happy, to be sustained. The same way, when Quran wants to teach you about the divine names, it will most reasonably and in the best way tell you about how these divine names are exemplified in your life, because this is how you know them. By just telling you that he is the all-knowing, it doesn't mean anything. It would be just a word that you would memorize. But when you study that as Adam, sometimes you know things, and as angels, sometimes you don't know things, and you know what it means, all-knowing, all-wise. Otherwise, all-wise would be just a word for you. What is the Arabic version of it? Alim, al-alim, what is it?
Hakim is wise.
Al-Hakim, okay. So imagine I tell you just, he's Al-Hakim. And if you don't know Arabic, it doesn't mean anything. You would just memorize, oh yes, he's Al-Hakim. And you will be so religious. Memorize all these names. But Al-Hakim, the word, doesn't mean anything unless you live, you experience what this Al-Hakim corresponds to. Having knowledge or lacking knowledge. So that you know the source of knowledge, Al-Hakim. All these temporary, fluctuating examples of knowledge that you live through tell you about the Al-Hakim, and this is how you know it. Otherwise, you wouldn't know it. If Quran was telling you just the answers, he's the Al-Hakim. Oh, instead of giving all these examples, these are what we sustain to you, this is what we given to you, and so on and so forth. If he was saying that he's Al-Razak, it wouldn't mean anything to you. So in Quran, I think the Creator is not being vague. The Creator being miraculously the best teacher. Knowing how we learn things, how we know things, and telling what it's like what is meant to be told in the clearest way ever, through giving examples from our lives. And also, on the other hand, it tells us that when you live your life, don't take it as just, something particular. Your life is the way you learn, is the way you know. Take it as a training. Jazakallah.
إياكم. And I guess take it as a learning and try to understand. So as Quran was saying, there are indeed this is a sign for a people who thinks. I am supposed to think about it. I am supposed to get the meaning, try to get the meaning out of it. So it is a duty that is given to me by my creation. If I ask the question, why am I here on earth? I guess the answer is to see the signs in it by thinking or by contemplating on it. This is why I am given intellect. This is why I am given all these feelings. Jazakallah khairan. So let me conclude the discussion here because we are running short of time for Maghrib prayer. Inshallah, we are going to meet again next Friday. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة.